Welcome back to the Just Build Baby studio. You're listening to the BuildX Podcast. I'm your host, Buz Artiano. Today we're excited to have Chris Capelli in studio with us. Chris is the owner of Capital Fitness with 15 years of experience in the fitness industry. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Buz.
So today is going to be a special episode, not too much about building, but we're going to talk about personal fitness. So Chris, could you give us a quick update of how you got interested in this industry and kind of from, not from birth, but from...
Right.
From recent history up to where you are today.
Okay.
Although we could talk about your birth if you like.
Oh, it's exceptional.
We need your mom on the phone.
10-pound baby for that. Big coming out. Listen, ever since I was in elementary school, I was into sports. I think that's how it first started. I was a good athlete. I wasn't the best looking, right? I wasn't the smartest in the class, but I was really good at sports. It started from there. And then into high school, I met with this guy, Mike. He was, walking around like he had pineapples underneath his shoulders. He had the big arms. So he took me to the gym and we did a workout. I was very sore. He took my soul a little bit. I had trouble moving for the next couple of days. My ego was hurt, but I got through that and I enjoyed it though. So I went back and that's how I started my fitness journey.
So he started you with lifting?
He did start me with lifting.
Interesting.
Yeah, with football too, it's important to get your lifts in.
Obviously.
High school, they had these things called maxi lifts. Have you ever heard these before?
No.
So yeah, every year the football team would all get together in a room and see how much you can bench. And they start at quarter, so it was 200. You get 200, you get a 200 shirt.
Okay.
Right? 225, 250. I was like obsessed with getting these shirts, Buz. So I would just I was a pro at the bench. I was working in multiple times a week. And then my senior year, I had a 325 shirt.
Awesome.
Yeah, I was taking everyone's soul that day. I was huge. Even when the coaches were like, "Are you taking anything?" I'm like, no. No, but that's how we got going through there.
That's a good story. I never heard that story.
And then from there, I did some community college and some work in the trades as construction and rebuilding houses. I wasn't very good at that. I don't know if I had bad teachers. They were drinking beer a lot of the time, but I did what I could there. Yep. And then that brought into some landscaping. And then one day, my boss at the time brought me over. He said, "Come here, Chris." And he's like, "I want you to go in the woods there and pick up those sticks in the woods." So I went in the woods and I started picking up sticks. And it was a very emotional day because I remember what are you doing? Picking sticks up in the woods, Chris. Your life is horrible. So
that was the impetus of moving forward.
That was huge. Yeah, that was a lot of pain. And it really pushed me to get my certification through NASM, which is a very highly accredited certification. I have much more.
So you went back to school after that moment?
I went back to school after I had to. It was too much pain to be in the woods picking up sticks. And from there,
you saw your stick life flash before your eyes.
Oh yeah, it was very painful. And I don't know if I would have made it much longer in that.
Understood. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah.
So that was your moment. Everyone has that moment. You had that in the moment.
There was a lot of pain.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. And then from there, I got my certification and I started working at a local gym called Jordan Fitness. It was in Halifax at the time.
Okay.
I think that was early 2013, 14, around that time. And then I started working at other different gyms. So at one point, I was working at 5 gyms.
So you were a freelance drop-in personal trainer.
Yeah, I was highly sought after. I was freelance instructor, trainer. It was fun for a little while. And then it was like, holy shit, this is getting tough. And then one lady that was closed down, she was opening up a bigger space, offered me a spot to sublease her. And I said, yes, no question.
So that was the start of your first business, even though you were working inside another business.
That's right. Capelli Fitness. And I had my own space. I had a partner at the time. And yeah, I just went for it at that time. It was really cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for the audience, so I've been training with Chris now for I think 6 years.
Yeah.
5-6 years. Made a huge difference. Before I started training with Chris, I had tremendous back pain all the time. And honestly, after about a year working with him, that's gone away and it hasn't come back. So thank you for that. You've been a big help for me because obviously sitting down at the desk when your back hurts a lot. So
right.
So let's talk about all things fitness. We're going to first focus on the outside worker. They're working outside all day and they think they're getting physically fit.
Yes.
When I don't think that's true. And maybe let's explore that first and then we'll switch to the inside workers.
Yeah, that's a great question. The outside workers are doing a lot of steps and functional work, which is very good, by the way. Very, very good. Functional movement, they're getting their NEAT in, that's non-exercise activity movement, but they're not necessarily getting stronger if they're lifting up the same weights every time. Maybe they're bending over wrong, they're not picking things up correct. If you're picking up, lumber all day, I'm not going to have you come in the gym and do deadlifts either. I mean, that's not smart, but you definitely can strengthen certain muscle groups to really make yourself perform better at work.
So I agree with that 100%. I know for myself, obviously I started as a residential framer, and you do get very strong in certain aspects, but other parts of you are very weak because you're not training that muscle. And it never occurred to me to go to the gym back then and work on my other muscles.
Right.
So the point of that story, I believe, is that even though you are outside physically working, you still need to go to the gym and work on some of your other, core muscles to make sure you don't become unbalanced.
That's a great point right there. A lot of times when you're working outside as a worker, you become very unbalanced, right? A lot of interior work, not so much posterior work. So you can become, you can have a lot of muscle pain, back pain, because, maybe your quads aren't strong enough, maybe your back's not strong enough and you're putting all the weight in your upper body. So you want to do some bilateral work in the gym and some.
So let's break that down for the rest of us that didn't get certified.
So that means when you're coming in the gym, No,
but first let's back up a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm a framer, right? And go back to the day, right? I'm a framer. I'm working, 6 in the morning till 4 in the afternoon. I'm already tired, and now I got to go to the gym, right? So it's important, in my opinion, to go find the right gym, to find the trainer that owns the gym, to say, hey, this is what I do all day.
Yep.
I need you to make a workout for me that's going to supplement what I'm not doing, and or both, and look at how I'm doing these new exercises you're giving me to make sure I'm doing them correctly. And if they can't obviously afford personal training, then you could do a couple sessions with them and say, this is your workout, this is the movement, this is how I want you to lift, this is the cadence. And then every couple months they could pay you to step in and say, hey, this is your new regime or whatever.
That's correct. If they're at work outside and they're mostly using their biceps and chest muscles, I may come in and give them a workout program, like you said, 1 or 2 sessions, right? It's not that expensive. And give them some more pulling exercises on the machine, some pull downs, some seated rows, things that are going to balance their body out a little bit more. So they're having more corrective functional training.
Right.
Instead of just doing the same reps over and over again outside.
Yeah, that's a good point. I never thought of that. All right, so then let's switch gears. So we're going to do nutrition after this. So obviously that's a big component of being fit. But so now let's switch gears. So we have an estimator sitting at the desk all day. Maybe he has a stand-up, sit-down desk. Maybe he's doing a little standing. But for the most part, you're staying in the same spot, pounding on the keyboard, staring at the computer, talking on the phone. The heaviest thing you're lifting is your pen or the phone.
Yep.
There's no physical exercise.
Right.
So how do you treat that client different than the person that's doing physical work all day? Well,
this client's very interesting. They don't have a lot of energy typically, right? Because they're not moving much. They have no momentum, right? The lymphatic system is crashed, so their blood's not pumping throughout their body. So what I try to get them is start tracking steps right away.
Okay.
How many steps?
So now we're back to a Fitbit or some other electronic device.
Where I'm big on the wearables.
All right. So we get them into a wearable.
Yep.
And we're shooting for how many steps a day?
We're shooting for a minimum of 8,200. But
8,200. Okay.
Yeah, that cuts a lot of cardiovascular disease out.
So I've had a pretty quiet day in the office. So I'm at 4,600 right now.
All right. You just need another 20-minute walk and you've made it.
Yeah. So it's I don't know what time it is. 2:00.
Yep.
So I've got time to get it in. I was fairly active this morning, but now I'm going to sit here and talk on the podcast for the next 2 hours, right? So I'm going to work on that. So we're going to work on their steps first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And to find out what's your bottom, what's your average too? Maybe, is it 2,000 or 3,000? And if we move them up to 2 or 3 to just 5,000, that's a major win. You can't look at you can't eat the dinosaur in one sitting, right, Buzz?
Okay. All right. So the first step is buy a Fitbit, something inexpensive. I think these are $99.
Right, cheap.
Put on your wrist, download the app for free, and start tracking for a week.
Yep. let's
right?
go.
And then come back to you and say, Chris, this is my score for the week.
Right.
And then you'd look at it, and again, maybe they've averaged 4,500 steps for the day. You say, you say what to them? We want to step you up to what?
Yeah, let's bring that up to 5,500, just 1,000 more. And then you can bring that, like that's a 10-minute walk.
All right, so we're going to baby step them up to 8,000 to 10,000 steps.
Exactly. Now, from a person that's sedentary and at the desk, what happens is the hip flexors come in tight, which pull in the hips, which pull in the lower back. So most likely back pain or hamstring pain or glute pain or all the above they're dealing with. So some stretching into that routine would be key too.
Okay. Now, someone like that, I think it sounds like to me that they would benefit from probably coming to a class, because there's more of those movements in class than there would be weight training.
Yes. Any movement, I would say, Buzz, would be good for someone like this. But
Understood.
yes, I love the class aspect because you have a coach, one to many. You have a personal trainer watching you and helping you through all
so they're
movements.
right there giving you real-time feedback.
Exactly.
Hey, tuck your elbow in, do this, do that.
All that. And you don't have to think about anything. You don't have to think about what workout you're doing. You don't have to think about your reps. You don't have to think about the exercise. You come in, someone's done all that for you, and they're going to correct your form, and they're going to bring the thunder, right, and the fun into the class.
And you're going to have the group, you're going to have that group aspect.
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of, group, camaraderie with everyone. And
energy.
Everyone, and it brings the energy up in you and everyone else.
Yeah, I'm sure you feel that when you come in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, obviously I come in at 7 and the 6, o'clock people are leaving. I generally there a little early, so I see what's going on. And you can definitely feel it. And then, I like it because I kind of, there's no class from 7 to 8, so I kind of have, the place to ourselves with the BuildX team. So if you ever want to come see the BuildX team work out, right, come from 7 to 8. We're generally all there.
Yep, Monday, Wednesday, Friday.
Yep. And then, the 8 o'clock people start rolling at about 7:45 and say hi to everybody. And it's fun. So so I think for the desk person, the worker, if you will, the desk, office worker, I'm going to use that term.
Yep.
I think it makes more sense to come to you and get involved in a class, even if they're only coming 2 times a week in the beginning. So get a wearable and come to a class a couple times a week.
Yep, come in, get a wearable. First class is free. You just try it out. No stress. No.
All right, so let's talk about that. So, a lot of people, and again, we're going to pivot to fit food here in a minute, but let's talk about there's obviously, no matter where you go, even if it's a new store, a new restaurant, there's always some anxiety. What's going to happen to me when I come in the door?
Yeah.
Are they going to be nice to me? Is the food going to be okay?
Yeah.
So the gym's no different. It's even worse because now, I feel like I'm going to be judged on, my current shape, where I'm at. If you've never been to a gym before, it's like, gee, is anyone going to be nice to me? Right. So there's a lot of internal strife about that. And I remember back, I had never trained with anyone ever. I'd never been to a formal gym. And even myself in the beginning, I was like, gee, I don't know what's going to happen here. I don't, I wouldn't say I was anxious, but I definitely thought about it. Right. And this is someone that's used to just going strange places every day.
You're a strong personality too.
No, I know, but I'm saying even for me to feel like that, right? I mean, I'm on job sites every day. I'm going to different places, looking at things. So I'm used to going into a lot of different environments. And even for me, I was like, gee, I don't really know what I'm going to happen to me, right? So so let's talk about that. So I get in touch with you, phone call, text, email, whatever it is. Do you do a discovery call with that person first? How does that, let's talk about the person that doesn't just walk in the door first. So let's take that person from, first contact, what happens?
Yeah, first contact, I'll get an email notification. They looked at our website. And then I reach out immediately and say, hey, this is Chris Capilli. I'm the owner of the gym. How can I help you? Right? Then they tell me their question, what they have, whether it's price or it's, classes, the gym. I say, okay, can we hop on a call? And then we can discuss it. Right?
So in the beginning, you might be emailing with them or texting with them. And then the goal is to get them on a phone call.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. And so that phone call is for you to get them comfortable with the fact that it's going to be a nice experience.
Yes.
And you're inviting them to come to the gym, and you're saying the first class is free. Is that what you just said?
First class is free, or a no sweat intro. They can just come in and consult with me and talk to me if they don't want to take a class.
Okay,
too.
so they don't even have to commit to coming to a class. They can just come and make an appointment and sit down with you for 15, 20 minutes, tour the gym, see what's going on, and you'll discuss them what their goals are and where they want to get at.
Right. Worst case scenario, we have a conversation. We help you with your goals. and then we can part friends if you don't like it. But I'm here to help, and that's the bottom line.
All right, so I come in for my consult. It sounds good. Now I want to come to a class.
Okay.
So what does that look like?
So I give them the schedule. I said, this is our classes. Pick one you like, morning or evening. They say morning. I say, okay, we got 6 a.m. on Thursday. Try this one. They say, okay. We get them in. We want to do it as soon as possible, too, while the iron's hot.
100%.
Because if you delay...
Yeah. You have more time to think about it.
Yeah, you'll talk yourself out of it. People talk themselves out of it all the time.
100%. That's never happened to me.
Yeah. Oh, I'm going to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So now we've got them in the first class. Obviously, everybody's friendly at your gym. You're friendly. It's an open environment, and people are very, understanding of each other. And there's all shapes and sizes in there, obviously.
Absolutely.
And so we have them in the first class. So after that first class, then what happens? Do you meet with them again and say, how'd you like it? Like, what's your goal?
Yeah, so usually after the first class, they're chatting up with the other members and talking and getting their stuff ready to go. Yep. And then as they're leaving, I meet them in my office, or I'll meet them out in the gym. I say, how'd you like the workout? Did you hate it or did you love it?
Yeah.
Right? Usually people love it. Their heart rate's up.
Sure.
They're moving their bodies. They love it. I said, do you want to make a decision? You want to sign up? Most of the time people say yes, that they're feeling good and they want to hop right in.
Sure.
If they want to think about it, I say okay, and I'll reach back out later. But it's really that simple.
Yeah.
I tried not to too hard to sell people on their health. They love it. They love it. They don't. But we've had a lot of good feedback.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. And obviously, it's important for people to feel welcome and accepted at your gym. And I know everyone that comes feels that. Mm-hmm. So, I think it's a very open and inviting environment. Like I said, there's people there that are very fit, and there's people that are very out of shape currently and working towards getting fit. So
everyone's getting better.
Not everybody. I think some people have a vision that everyone that they're going to go in the gym and everyone's going to be ripped. Yeah. And they're going to be the one, person that's not ripped.
Yeah. The imagination's a funny thing. It's a much worse in your mind than what it really is.
100%. So I think, the bottom line is give you a call, have a phone call, come in and see the gym, walk through whether it's, hey, I need to learn how to strengthen whatever part of my body because I'm doing the same repetitive motion every day, or I want to join a class and just start my fitness journey. Right.
Yeah, if you're a construction worker out in the field and you need to, have some muscle imbalances and you need to strengthen up those other sides of your body, that's really important. Or if you're at the desk and you just need to move more, you need to stretch out those body parts, those hip flexors and get strong.
All right, good. So now let's talk about so that's one side of the stool, right? We can move a lot, but if we're not putting the right fuel in, then we're not going to have any progress.
That's correct.
Right? So let's talk about nutrition, how you get involved with that. So I'm going to play out some scenarios. So now I'm going to be the desk worker again, and I come to the office, meet with you, I get involved in the class, and I'm coming for a couple weeks, and obviously I'm not changing my food intake, and so nothing's happening. So I come to you and say, what? Chris, can you help me with my food? How does that look?
Well, in No Sweat intro, I'll ask about the nutrition a little bit, and I'll circle back to that. How's your food? How you doing? How's it going? Usually by the answer, I know what's going on. It's going okay. I'll get the long answers, and I'll dig a little deeper. And then I really like to just understand what their habits are around food. Are you in the Clean Play Club? And that was a big deal for a lot of baby boomers. They feel like they have to eat the whole entire plate.
100%. The starving children in China that need your food, why don't you eat your food and all that.
Yeah, even beyond when you're full, which is not really good to do.
Yeah, and I can truthfully say for me, that was something that went on in my early childhood.
Yeah, that goes deep, for sure. Yeah. So I'll talk to them. I'll learn
Thank
about
God I had 3 dogs, and they loved lima beans.
You'd feed them the lima beans?
Yeah, they were the healthiest dogs ever.
They live a long time?
They did.
Well, you're giving them good fiber, that's for sure.
Because there's nothing drier than a lima bean.
But really good fiber and helps you go to the bathroom.
Yep. So now we're digging into nutrition, and so now I've worked out for a month. Now I'm serious about it. Are you going to offer some nutrition, coaching to me?
I will make an offer to you if I feel like you do need it. And if you don't know what macros are, that's your protein, your carbs, your fat. If you're telling me, you run down a day for me. Let's say you skip breakfast, you have a little bit for lunch, and then you're plow driving food into your mouth like it's going out of style, like a raccoon in a dumpster at the night. Well, we got serious problems, and you really need to start putting in better habits in that, and like really make an offer and say, hey, listen, I'm a nutrition coach. I can help you balance your macros, make sure you're getting sufficient protein in your diet, right? So you are building muscle, not losing it, and dropping fat, and teach them about fiber and all the things that come along with nutrition.
So that's a good segue. So there are people obviously that have in their mind, they only think protein is steak.
Yes.
Right? So protein is in many forms.
It is.
Right? So you have obviously chicken, fish, and steak, but then you also have plant-based protein.
Absolutely.
Right? So you have yogurts, you have
dairy, pea protein.
You have a lot of different things, right? So you have whey, right, which is not meat-based.
Right, that's dairy-based.
Yeah, dairy-based. So there are options for people to make sure that they get their proper protein intake.
Right, which is very important.
Without eating meat, if they're not a meat eater.
Yeah, most people, I've had a lot of clients that aren't particularly love eating meat, some only eat certain types of meat. I have someone that just I just want chicken, nothing else.
Yeah.
They won't eat steak or fish, but they'll have chicken. So sometimes it does get hard, but you just got to work around what their diet and what they
So
love.
my point is that once you get to know them, then you're going to design a program that you're not going to say to them, you have to eat this 16-ounce sirloin, you have to eat this 4-pound lobster, you have to eat this, right? You're gonna build a program that fits within their scope of their dietary, what they want to eat.
Yes, we're going to tailor a meal plan that's designed for them. First, when I'm working with a client, I just have them eat normal and get a sense of how they eat on a weekly basis, because it's tough to see like a snapshot of one day. Once I get a snapshot of their weekly basis, we tweak it, Buzz, like they said.
Right, and that goes back to if we can get them on, I'm just going to pick on Fitbit because I'm a user, obviously. It has a free app where you can track your food in the app very easily.
It's beautiful.
You can scan, you can take pictures of food now with it and barcodes and all those things. So you can easily document exactly what you're eating, number one. And number two, it'll show you that ratio, those three ratios, in real time.
Yep.
Which once you get used to doing it, it's very helpful because you can look at it and say, gee, I'm really high on carbs. I better knock that off today, and I'm going to have a whey shake, or I'm going to have pea protein, or I'm going to have a hunk of steak, depending on who you are. So I think that's important. There's a lot of inexpensive and or free tools for people to really track this, especially, everyone has a smartphone now, right? And they can really impact their health in a positive way without spending a lot of money.
Yeah, MyFitnessPal is free. They can track their food
that's
on
another
that.
one. Yeah, I remember using that back in the day.
Yeah, that's a good one. You can see your macros on there. And if you're not sure how to do it, that's when you really want to get a nutrition coach to kind of point you in the right direction.
Right. So again, they start tracking food. You'll sit down with them and say, okay, let me look at your app. Let me look at your intake.
Yeah.
I want you to do a little more of this. I want you to do a little less of that. Blah blah blah, and that's going to help them really start dialing that in.
Yeah. Once we get their macros dialed in, their body composition really takes hold, and they start making transformation, which is a beautiful thing to watch.
100%. Yeah, and I've seen big changes. Obviously I'm there, 3 times a week, and I've seen big changes of your clients coming in, and you just see it in their body composition. Plus, you see it in their, their facial expression and how they carry themselves.
Yeah,
so
a lot more confidence.
Yeah, 100%. So now that's the person that can control their food because they're in a fixed environment. They're in an office and they have a refrigerator there, hopefully, and or a small kitchenette or whatever. But they're not, on the road, if you will.
Yeah.
Right? And that's where for me, that's where the trouble starts.
Right.
Right. I'm driving down the road at 6 a.m. I'm starving. I'm wheeling into McDonald's, having the number one with a large OJ and a the little hash brown thing.
Yep.
Right. And then I'm pulling down the road. I'm yakking on the phone. And I'm eating. I'm not even thinking about what I'm eating.
Yeah.
And now it comes, 1 o'clock. I'm starving again.
Right.
I'm down the street now and I'm seeing the Burger King. Right. I'm swinging in there. Whopper with cheese, large fries, Coke. Right. Now I've already consumed probably 3,000 calories for the day, and all I've been doing is driving.
You should just pull into the ER after those two things for a heart attack. And a lot of fatty, greasy food.
Well, we haven't even got to dinner yet. So, we're on the road, right? Eating on the road is tough.
Yes.
Right? So what's some hacks, if you will, to avoid those pitfalls? I know I have developed a few, but, let's talk about that.
The first hack was do your best to eat food that's whole, that's from the earth. If it doesn't graze, grow, or swim, try not to eat it. I know it's not going to be perfect all the time. And if you can go to a Five Guys that has burger, maybe you can do without the bun.
Yeah,
that's
so burger bowl. Yep.
Burger bowl.
Those are really good. I'm obviously, I got you started on that, I think, actually.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
If you look at any pizza sub place, I know those aren't good choices, but most places have a grilled chicken salad, grilled chicken kebab.
Yep.
That's healthy food. You have fiber, you have your protein. As long as you're not going ham on the dressing, on the Greek dressing, and putting another 1,000 calories there, you're doing a good job.
Yeah. So you have to be. So that's a good point. So let's talk about that. So you can be eating whole food like a piece of chicken, but if you smother it in ketchup or mustard, well, especially ketchup, mustard's not too bad, but ketchup is not going to be a good thing. Or like you said, you grab a package of the pre-made Greek dressing and smother the chicken in the dressing.
Right.
You've kind of negated the whole purpose of eating
that's not the point. I mean, the ketchup has a lot of sugar in it.
Right.
And then, of course, the Greek dressing, it's so fatty, and that'll tear
you up.
A
lot of sodium too.
It'll tear into you, too.
Yeah, that's what makes it taste good.
You're going to be pulling over to find a bathroom soon, too.
Yeah. So so again, I think, plan out your day if you can. If you do need to go to a fast food place, for the most, again, I've kind of learned this. So if you have to pull in a Burger King, you just tell them you want 4 Whopper patties. They'll sell you that separately in a cardboard box.
Yeah.
Put some salt on them. Stay away from the ketchup, and they're actually pretty tasty and very inexpensive. I think they were like $11 for 4 of them.
Yeah.
So I mean that's let's see, that's a half a pound. No, that's a pound of meat. Probably cooked down. It's probably 3/4. So that's a good protein hit. Obviously, it's hamburger, but it's better than eating a Snickers bar.
Right, much better than eating a Snickers bar, and that's a better choice. If you have strong will, like Buz here, that could be a choice for you. But if you hang out in a barbershop, you're gonna get a haircut. So be careful in those fast food restaurants. But that is definitely a better choice to make. Just gonna get the burger patties.
Yeah. So most places, and let's talk about. So I've learned this hack too. If you go into a pizza shop, you can get I'll pick on D'Angelo's. Yeah. You can say to them, most places will make something in a bowl for you. Yeah. Right? So you get a number 9, you just tell them you want it in a bowl. You can tell them extra steak. Yeah. And you have a nice, bowl of steak with a little bit of cheese on it and some vegetables. And you're not eating. The bread is the biggest one. For me, the bread is what I need to stay away from.
Right. It's that refined sugar in the bread that turns your glucose right into just a pile of sugar. Right. And it's going to spike your blood sugar, and you're going to have that crash, and you get starving again, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
So you got to watch that.
So let's talk about. So that's good advice. Now, so that's the food. Let's talk about the liquid intake.
The liquid intake.
Right. So now you have. It started with Monster Energy drinks, and now you have Rockstar and every other brother name of those things.
Right.
So let's talk about energy drinks, because I see a lot of people. So I go back to the early days of Jolt Cola. I don't know if you remember Jolt.
I do remember that.
But that was double the caffeine of regular soda.
It's insane. I'm not obviously a big component of those. They have high sugar. Right. They have dyes. And they have a shit ton of caffeine. I mean, 200 milligrams in one small bottle, that is a huge kick. And that takes time for your body to process that. And the interesting thing about caffeine is it actually doesn't give you energy. It stops you from getting tired, right? It turns off certain receptors. So
you think you're not tired, but you're actually getting tired.
Exactly right.
So it's basically just amping you up.
It's amping you up big time. So, and then when that crashes, you're just repeating the cycle. And we talked about this, is the disturbance of sleep from those is huge. So that is a major issue with these drinks too.
Oh, so it throws off your sleep rhythm.
Yes. And when you do that, you're putting yourself in even more trouble with the food, because now you're going to be tired. And when you're tired,
you eat more.
You're tired. You want more carbs. You want more sugar.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so stay away from energy drinks.
Yes.
So water obviously is the best choice.
Right.
So that's a good pivot. So let's talk about microplastics.
Oh, I know too much about microplastics right now.
Well, not everybody knows what microplastics are.
Something for men out there who are listening, microplastics really take down your testosterone. A lot of men right now are, not even able to have kids, unfortunately, because the microplastics are just drawing off
where do we get them from? Where do they come from?
They come from pans, they come from soap, they come from water bottles. It's really a dogfight with these plastics, and you have to really be conscious. You want to have your liquids in a cup like this, BuildX, and or glass would be the best.
Yeah, or get one of these, BPA plastic.
Yeah, BPA plastic.
One of these, one of these water bottles that this is a Yeti.
Yeah, Yetis are good. Aluminum.
This doesn't,
steel.
Actually, you know what? Aluminum. I need to get an aluminum one now that you just said that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna work on that. Next time you see me, I'll have an aluminum.
Right. So that's really important.
Yeah.
And then if you don't have a Brita in the house or a Puri, I really recommend.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. So you can't just because it comes out of a Poland Spring bottle, right? Doesn't mean it's actually from Poland Spring, wherever that may be, right? Bottled in Maine. But we don't know what's going on. Plus, it's in a plastic bottle.
Yeah.
It's been sitting in a hot truck.
It has.
Right?
Yeah.
And now it's sitting in your hot truck.
Right.
And then you put it in the refrigerator, and then you pick it up and you start drinking it.
Yeah.
That's probably loaded with something you don't want to be drinking.
Yeah.
And I can truthfully say that I'm guilty of drinking a lot of those, probably tens of thousands.
It's hard not to.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, and this is a recent change for me. I was just, I'm not sure why it was being, but now I've finally seen the light. So if there's hope for me, there's hope for everyone.
Did you hear about that thing where they pull like a tablespoon of plastic out of someone's brain?
Yeah, so they've been doing, so the gross part of this is, and this is how this all started for me, is they just did an autopsy of like 16 or 20 individuals, that were 60 and older and had beginnings of, unfortunately, had passed away from either dementia or Alzheimer's. And they found up to, I think it was 10 or 15 grams
of
microplastics in their brain. Because the microplastic is so small, it can breach the membrane, the blood-brain membrane, and actually lodge in the brain.
And it's crazy, that blood-brain barrier is so protective, but it's somehow those microplastics get right in there. They mimic something. It's called
micro for a reason.
Yeah.
Right? So, and it looked like dust. They showed a picture of it.
Yeah.
Looked like really fine dust, but it was still white.
Yeah.
And white and black, obviously, because it was been in somebody's brain. But it can't be good for you. So, so that brings us to regular water. So even though you have a plastic water bottle, for me, obviously that was a good point. I'm going to get a metal one, and that's obviously why we talk about this stuff, right? So don't be afraid to change.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
If you're wearing plastic,
and that's a hard thing for some people. So. Now I have my metal water bottle. Probably still has a plastic cap, right? You can't get away from plastic all the way, right? But at least we've gotten 95% of the way there. But now we need to treat our water. So how do we do that?
Well, we treat our water. They have reverse osmosis in your house. You have the filtered water purees, the Britas. Those are great for taking out those microplastics and a lot of the metals that are in water.
Yeah,
so
heavy metals.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah. So again, in order to be healthy, you do need to do a little work.
You do.
Right?
You do.
But, setting water in your Brita filter overnight and letting it, filter is not a lot of work.
That's just from the tap. That's easy to do.
Right. So that's a good point. So we've covered the beginnings of exercise. We've covered the food intake, liquid intake. Now we're going to move on to supplements.
Yes.
Right? So what should the average person... how do they know what supplements they need?
Right.
I come to you, I have no idea where I'm at. And I say, Chris, I don't know. I see all these advertisements. Who should I buy from? What supplements should I be taking? Like for me, I know I get confused and I look at it, I'm not sure. So as a result, I honestly don't take anything because I'm nervous I'd take the wrong thing.
Right. There's a lot to unpack there, but that would be something I really work with my nutrition clients with, is supplements. If my members, I know most people are deficient in protein, so I always recommend to supplement some protein in your diet, because if you're trying to build lean muscle mass, you're going to need more protein.
Right, 100%.
But the most important one, Buzz, I would recommend to you is vitamin DK2. That's one that everyone should be taking. I mean, we're deficient in that. And vitamin D is just not a supplement, it's a hormone. And most of us are deficient in it, especially living up north.
But how do we know that? Can we go get a blood test?
You
we
can get
a
it
hair
tested.
test?
Yeah, you can go to.
What can we get?
You can get a test up at Quest up there.
Yeah.
They'll do one, but for most likely, you're not going to overdose on vitamin D, K2.
Okay.
You know what I mean, you need to have those two together. That's important.
So if I come to you and say, what should I take for a supplement? You have trusted brands that you know are made in the United States.
Yeah.
Not going to poison me.
Yeah. All the supplements we have and that we promote are vetted by outside companies. And it says right on the box, you know, the companies, they vetted them. So it's not just its own company saying, hey,
Got it. Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
so you always
So
want
third party testing.
Yeah.
And they're testing this. They continue doing continuous testing.
Right. I forget the names of them, but there's a couple on.
Understood.
They'll be on the labels of the supplement.
Okay. So now we have good supplements, and we're feeling better. We're starting to lose a little weight, and then I come back to you and say, Chris, you know, I've been with you for a year. I want to start. You know, I've been, you know, now that my back stopped hurting, and I really want to stop. I want to feel better. I want to feel even more better. Right.
More better. I like more better.
Right. So.
Yeah.
So now what? So now I come to you and you do what for me? We do more classes. You get me started with personal training. What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So someone comes in, they want to lose some weight, right? We get them on the weight loss journey. That takes a little bit of time. Once we start getting the weight off, they're feeling better. They want to take it to the next level. Again, we up their classes, maybe 3 or 4 a week. That's an option. And we look at performance, right? How much weight are they lifting in the gym? We try to bump them up on that. So they're building lean muscle, tone, looking strong, feeling strong. That is definitely an option we can go down.
Right. But if I'm on a limited budget, I can I do a la carte with you? Can every 6 months can I say, hey Chris, can you train with me for 2 days because I want you to show me new exercises and write me a routine?
Yes, that's easy to do. I do it all the time. I have someone right after this podcast. I'm going to go meet. I got a workout for them all set. She hasn't seen me in about 5 months. So I'm going to give her a routine in the gym, set her on her way. If she has any questions, we'll go through the whole routine.
Okay, so that's important for people to know that it's not all or nothing.
Right.
Right. So you'll adjust what they, you know, inside their budget, you'll get the maximum value that they can afford.
Yes.
That's good. That's good for people to know that. That's important.
Right. Another point for the large group training too, that's a great tool to have in service because the coach is there pushing you on the way up too.
Sure.
So you're always feeling like there's a new mountain to climb, which I like. Yeah. You know, hey, why aren't you lifting those 20s? Pick them up.
Right.
Pick up the 15-pound curls, the 20-pound curls.
Give me one more rep.
Yeah, one more rep.
Hold that crunch for another second.
Yep.
Right. It's a little micro wins. You got to get some micro wins in the beginning.
You do.
Yeah,
Definitely got to get some wins.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So now, one of the things I know, you know, as I get older, right, things aren't as easy to lift and et cetera. So, you know, let's pretend I'm 75 years old and I've been, you know, working on a desk job and I'm kind of really out of shape and I've never really been in the gym. You know, how do you get me started? I'm an older woman or a man, and I'm overweight. I'm not comfortable in the gym. How do we help that client?
Well, you give them a lot of support. You know, you work on their mindset. You just take them through a half-hour session. You show them the gym. You make them comfortable with the environment. You get them some wins. You show them how to do the pulley push-down machine and the seated row and the chest, and they feel what it feels like, how to pull, how to push, and they get the benefits of adapting to that stress, and they feel good about it. And when you leave the gym after your heart rate's up a little bit, you're going to get that dopamine hit. You're going to get the serotonin, all those good chemicals in the brain, not to mention stronger from the workout. So it's a lot of benefits you feel right away. Even if you're older, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can build muscle, even if you're 90 years old.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, right? So it's never too late to start. Obviously, it's easier to start when you're younger,
sure,
right? But you know, you find yourself 60 or 70 years old and you say, gee, I can't move like I used to.
Yeah.
And you got to think about it and try to work on it.
Yeah, and know
so bottom line is, you know, 15 years old up to whenever, you can adjust your program to help that person.
Yeah. There's no excuse not to go to the gym. There really isn't. I have a mom with 3 kids that go to the gym. I have people that are 80 years old that come to the gym. You know, from every age to gender that come to the gym, and they make it happen, and they feel good. Stem cells live inside the muscles, so you really want that as you start to age too. All right, it makes you younger, and it's going to make you feel better and keep you alive longer. Hopefully, you don't want to break a hip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You need to have that core strength. So God forbid you do take a tumble, you can hopefully catch yourself and not break a bone, right?
Absolutely.
Because as you get older, breaking a bone sometimes can be. It can be at the beginning of a downward spiral.
I know hospitals have a thing about that where you break a hip and end up dead.
It's not good.
Yeah.
So, well, that's good. So that was very informative. Any parting words of wisdom you want to give to the audience?
I would just say, whatever your past experience with the gym, don't let that be the defining experience. If you had a bad coach, you had a bad trainer, a bad experience, one that doesn't have to relate with another. If you want to try it, come to Capital Fitness, give us a shot for free, see how you feel. You might love it. You might hate us. We'll pot friends either way. All right?
Well, I like to truthfully say I don't think they'll hate it, but
no.
I definitely encourage everyone to listen. And if you want to come get beginnings of a workout and learn what you're doing, come see Chris. Meet the other clients. They're all great people. You can ignore me when I'm there, so you don't have to have that experience. So
try to.
And we'll have fun. At least we'll have fun. So that's a wrap for today's episode of BuildX Podcast. Thank you for Chris for coming in from Capelli. Thank you for Chris from Capital Fitness coming in today. Really enjoyed it. Great episode. Please subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed it. And we'll see you next week. And remember, Chris,
just build, baby.